Okay, guys, tonight is the night. You ready? Baruch Hashem, many new faces here tonight, many new faces today. Yeah. Me and some of the guys in Sion are talking, and there is a shift that's taking place. Something is happening. Something amazing is taking place, something transformative, something urgent. And we are very fortunate to be a part of it. We have a very big zchut. Somebody texted me just before the class, one of the female students, and said to me, I noticed that you're talking about Meshiach a lot. You're talking about Meshiach in like a lot of your lessons. I just want to know, what's the reason exactly that you're doing that? It's a good question. First of all, the flies only came with the sin of Adam, so they're going to go away when Mashiach comes. That's a good reason for Mashiach to come, just to get rid of flies. But the real reason is like this. The Baal Shem Tov, when he created Chassidut, what was the reason, but what was the deep reason? What was the thing that was pulling him and pushing him to create a brand new transformation in the way that people experience Torah? Mashiach. The imminence of Mashiach. That Hashem made very clear to the Baal Shem Tov in his lifetime that Meshiach is here, that redemption is here, and there's one thing that needs to take place before Meshiach can reveal himself to the world, and that is you, Yisrael ben Eliezer, the Baal Shem Tov, when the way that you experience me, Hashem speaking, when the way that you experience me, the way that you relate to me through love, through higher consciousness, through self-sacrifice for every single Jew, for love for every single Jew, no matter what they've been through, no matter where they've been, no matter who they are, that he took Kabbalah, which many people in our generation don't know this because they hear about Kabbalah from a Kabbalah center, or they hear about Kabbalah from different Hasidic masters, or they hear about Kabbalah from different Sephardic rabbis who are speaking about the Arizal, whatever it is. Kabbalah is like science. It is really not practical at all. When you read straight Kabbalah, it's like you're literally looking at an engineering textbook, okay? People don't understand what the Baal Shem Tov did. He took the most scientific, he took the most intricate, mystical, esoteric understanding of reality, which is purely in theory, so to speak, and he made it that you can live with every piece of it physically in your life, and by doing that you transform your life and the whole world around you. It's something that doesn't make any sense. That's really incredible. And Hashem told him, the Mashiach told him, when your Torah goes chutza, when your Torah spreads out across the world, Mashiach, I will come. I'm going to come. Rabbi Nachman says in the Likutei Moharan something very, very powerful. He has a Torah, and he explains there that at the very least, every single Jewish man and woman needs to make sure they are not themselves the reason that Mashiach has not come yet. Do you hear that? I'm going to say it again. Every Jewish man and woman needs to. You don't have to be the cause of him coming. I mean, you should be. But Rabbi Nachman's saying he's so close that you just have to make sure you're not the reason he hasn't come yet. That's a very powerful statement. It's incumbent upon you every day to make sure you're not the reason that the redemption hasn't taken place yet. Obviously, we have to look at that Torah to understand what that means. But just simply, if that was that real 200 years ago, before the Holocaust, before the Jews went back to the land of Israel, how much more so now that all the sages, the authentic, genuine sages of our generation, I'm not just talking about people who say they have prophecies and they have dreams and whatever, like I picked my nose and like I found out something, but that like I people who are really holding in the spiritual reality of things. Everyone agrees Mashiach is not coming in the future. He is here now. He's here right now. So why am I speaking about him all the time? Because his coming is dependent on us. We think like Mashiach's just going to come. Is that really so geschmack that Hashem made it that like eventually Mashiach would just come? Or how sweet is it, or how sweet could it be that Mashiach's coming is dependent on every single Jewish man and woman taking it upon themselves to actualize themselves spiritually. And when enough Jewish people do that, Mashiach comes. We're part of a very intricate, very complex, very long process. Mashiach is not just, okay, we're just waiting for him. Mashiach ben David, this process has started since before the creation. We are at the end of that process. And we have a chance to be a part of something that is not just special, not just historic, something that is literally transformative. The creation is not going to be the same. Reality will not be the same after he comes. Nothing is going to be the same. Everything that's lacking in the world will not be lacking anymore. You know, we all have problems at home with our parents, with our wives, with our kids, with our families, with ourself. We have problems between Jews. This guy's liberal, this guy's conservative, this guy's right-wing, this guy's left-wing, this guy is, he's living in the villages, and this guy's living in the yeshiva, and this guy's... We're just Jewish. We're just Jewish. All of this is going to go away. Did anybody here in the Torah see something about Hashem saying all 12 tribes are Ashkenazi? All 12 tribes are Sephardi. The only thing that I saw about Sephardim was the frogs in Egypt. Stop. No, please. I had a whole conversation with someone who told me not like that. I don't want to hear it. Somebody literally was like nudging me for like a half an hour trying to get me to be Muslim to the fact that Meshiach has to be Sephardic. Why do we have to do that? Who cares? Really. It's like just the fact that it has to be something. It has to come from my team. You know what team you're on? You're not on a Sephardic team. You're on the team of Klal Yisrael. You're not on the Ashkenazic team. You're on the team of Klal Yisrael. You're not on the right-wing team. You're not on the left-wing team. You're not even on the religious or the non-religious team. There's one team, Israel. The fact that we don't think like that is a serious problem. It's a very serious problem, and it's stopping the Mashiach from coming. When you go to Uman, you're going to see that whole thing fade right away. You're going to see every type of Jew under the sun in one space, happy, connected, alive, yearning, seeking, and you see, oh my gosh, we could do this? It doesn't have to be like what we experience all the time. Like, we don't have to do that. It could be like this. Yeah. It could be like that. And we need it to be like that. We need it to be like that. We blame non-Jews, we blame Christians and Muslims, and we blame our wives, and we blame everyone. How about we just start with ourselves? We think everyone else is the problem. You think the Jewish people are functional? You think we've hit our peak? You think that we're connected? There's not one guy down the street who doesn't hate his Jewish brother. It's terrible. This guy's fighting with him. This guy's jealous of him. This guy's angry at him. This guy's looking to kill him. And you're blaming a group of people who are living in the Middle East, who they're being brainwashed since they're little kids about what Jews are and what they're not. What about us? The Torah teaches, Kabbalah teaches, you know when the world outside is going to look different? When it looks inside, different. When is it going to look different outside? When it looks different inside. The fascination with the non-Jewish world being the cause of our problems is actually extending the exile. The cause of our problems is within our people itself. When that problem ceases to exist, the non-Jewish world will help us in everything that we want to do, because they are our Ezer Kenegdo. Just like your wife is your Ezer Kenegdo, and she is sent in order to bring you towards your mission, whether that's pleasant or that's not pleasant. The non-Jewish world is the same thing to the Jewish people. So we have work to do. And this is why I speak about Mashiach a lot. And we have a beautiful opportunity. Something that I don't think we've had in a long time. Why? Because people have thought that Judaism is a certain way for a very long time. But we have a whole generation of Balei Tshuva and converts that don't have a prior experience of Judaism. Judaism is not cultural for them. It's not historical for them. It's coming from a deep inner yearning with no preconceived notions. And you have a whole group of Balei Tshuva and converts who are coming in the fold, reading the Torah for the first time, and seeing the Jewish world and saying, this is not what I'm reading about. This is not what I learned. I'll tell you something that I don't share with many people, but I think it's important to say. And I'll just tell you because this is what he told me. When I was becoming Balei Tshuva, and I became very connected to Chassidut and to Kabbalah and to Rabbi Nachman and I saw, wow, how beautiful the Torah is. How much peace could be in the world if we learn this. How much unity there could be, how much joy, how much life force. And I saw the Jewish world, but it's not like that. So I said to myself, either I'm reading the Torah wrong, and I just don't understand what I'm reading, or there is a serious problem. Does everybody understand? I went to multiple rabbis in my early few years of beginning stages of tshuva, and everyone said, you don't know what you're talking about, there's nothing wrong, you don't know enough. Everyone said there's not a problem, there's no problem, everything is fine. You just need to learn more, okay? But this was bothering me. This was, some things they eat away at me because I have a very deep feeling for what's right and what's not, for what's true and what's false, for what's real and what's ingenuine. And it's been guiding me my whole entire life, sometimes to very dark places, and sometimes, thank God, to here. And I once went, after years of talking to people, I went on a Shabbaton in New York. And whatever, they were trying to show everybody about the yeshiva that there was. It was a great yeshiva. They were trying to get everybody to come to the yeshiva. And they had a party during the nighttime. I was not so interested in the party. I was more interested in reading. So I went to the Beit Midrash. They had a beautiful Beit Midrash there to go look at the books. And there was the biggest rabbi that I'd ever seen at that point in person, who was sitting there, who was teaching during the day, and he wasn't part of the party. He was just learning. So I thought to myself, you know what do I have to lose? He's just going to tell me the same thing everybody else told me. I can't hold it in, though. I have to find out an answer to this question. Otherwise, I'm going to have a hard time making this next step. Because if what I'm thinking is real, then I'm going to have to make a big change in my life. And there has to be a big change, period. And it's hard to commit to that big change if you're not sure if what you're saying is true. So I went to this rabbi, and I said to him all of these things. And I said, I feel that there's a serious problem. And he, for the first time, despite being the biggest of all the rabbis that I spoke to, and having every reason not to, he told me, David, you are 100% right. I said, what? He said, everything you said is true. I was like, okay, so now what? He goes, that's why we need you. I said, what are you talking about? He said, what do you think a Baal Tshuva is here for? The Baalei Tshuva are here to teach the Jews how to be Jewish. This is what he told me. This thing has stuck with me every day, ever since that day, for years. He said, you're a Baal Tshuva. You are here to teach us how to be Jewish. Now, obviously, you can never say anything like this, but because who are you? Who am I? What am I? What do I know? I don't know anything. But part of the benefit of not knowing anything is that you don't know anything. And you're coming to the Torah, you're coming to Hashem, and your eyes are not jaded by thousands of years of wars, of pogroms, of cultural tremendous issues, and you don't have all of that. You're just reading like we got the Torah for the first time. Rabbi Nachman makes it very, very clear that the hidden Torah, the highest Torah that is in this world, is hidden within Baalei Tshuva and converts. And for the redemption to take place, that Torah from them needs to be revealed. So even though we're just sitting around and hanging out with our friends and just playing ball, chilling with our boys, because why? We don't think we're anything. We just think we're just here. I'm here. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. I believe in God, but I don't know exactly what to do with that. It's we have a very important thing to be doing. We have a very, very, very important thing to be doing. And Rabbi Nachman is the key. Rabbi Nachman is the key. And yeah, so we have a lot to do. So, Rabbi Nachman says, Ki hanegina hi binyan hamalchut. Song is what builds the Malchut. Song is what builds the Meshiach. Song is what builds the Meshiach within you. What is the Meshiach within you? The king within you. Every Jew has a king within themselves. What does it mean that you have a king? You have an influence. You have an influence on yourself. You have an influence on those around you. That's your aspect of Mashiach, your aspect of kingship. How do you build that aspect of kingship so you're able to positively influence yourself and those around you? How is ultimately Mashiach going to build his kingship with which he's not just going to rule over himself or his family or a community or society or even just the Jewish people, but with which he's going to influence the whole world? It comes from song. It comes from music. Lachach ruihu lemalchut. And for this reason, David is deserving of the malchut. He's deserving of the malchut. V'zeh shekatuv etzlo. And this is why the pasuk says, Me'achar alot haviu. This pasuk from Tehillim, which is speaking about David, when Hashem chose David, why did he choose David to be the Meshiach? Because he got him from behind the nursing ewes, he brought him. What are these ewes? Ewes. Yeah. It's a baby deer. Or baby sheep. It's a deer? Yeah. Alot. In the pasuk it's alot, but it means ewes. Me'achar alot havio. With an iron. Alot. This is page 100. Page 100. Okay? So, you should bring a beach chair with you also. Okay? From behind nursing ills he was taken. So what is this? So the Midrash says in Shemot Rabbah, why did Hashem choose David to be the king of the Jewish people? And we know that whatever applies to David applies to the Mashiach. He's the Precurse, so that's why we call him Ben David. Because whatever happened to David in his life is what's going to happen to the Mashiach when he finally comes. Okay? Why was David chosen? Because of how he was leading his father's sheep. His father had sheep. He watched those sheep. Now, how did he watch those sheep? In a very interesting way. Besides the fact that he cared about each and every one in a very, very, very intimate way, he cared about each one in a very genuine, heartfelt way. But besides that, it was how he took care of them. What did he do? He had the youngest one comes and eat the top of the grass. That was the softest part. Then he had the oldest ones come and eat the middle of the grass, which is a little bit harder. And then he had the brazen middle in the prime of their lives come and eat the hardest bottom of the grass. And in this way, everybody got exactly what they needed. And Hashem said, this is what my king of my people needs. Two things. That he takes care of every single sheep, and specifically in the way that each of them needs. This is David. Ha'enu me'achar hamanikot. Meaning, from behind those that suckle. Okay, so for the people who aren't here, this is talking a very deep Kabbalistic terminology. There are sfirot that are called netzach and hod. Netzach and hod are the source of prophecy in the world. Prophecy is revelation of what will be, revelation of truth. It's called prophecy. When Mashiach comes, all the Jewish people will become nevi'im, prophets. Okay? Mashiach, his ability to rule is going to be coming from the fact that his mind is rooted in prophecy. How is his mind rooted in prophecy? From netzach and hod. Netzach and hod are called the nursing ewes. Ewes. Yeah. Ewes. Oh, it's that ewes. From the behind the nursing ewes, he got David. So what does it mean on a Kabbalistic level? It means he chose David because he was nursing from netzach and hod. Because he was nursing from the place of prophecy. From the place of nevuah. Because why? Ha'enu netzach v'hod. Ki heim manikin laneviyim, because they are what nourish the prophets. They are what give spiritual sustenance to the prophets. Vehem binyan malchut. They are what build the malchut. They are what build the Jewish king. They are what build the Mashiach. Okay. So, good. Everybody understand? Now on an individual level, what does that mean for us? It means, how do I tap into the king within me? How do I tap into the part within me which is a positive influence on my life and those around me? To the degree that you are drawing from netzach and hod. What is netzach and hod? Netzach and hod is your boldness for the truth, meaning when you have a truth and you live with that truth no matter what anybody tells you, and it is your number one priority, and even if you fall from it, you never give up on it, that's called netzach. This was revealed by Moshe Rabbeinu. The other is the concept of gratitude. Thankfulness for everything in your life, both the good and the seemingly bad. When a person expresses gratitude for all of it, and coming from Hashem, this is hod. So when a person is doing both of these things, he is both actively thanking Hashem for all of the good, all of the bad, all of the highs, all of the lows, all of the sweetness, and all of the tremendous darkness. When a person can thank Hashem for all of them, he is drawing from hod. So when he's doing both of these things, he is building his malchut. Malchut is your emunah. Okay? This is what we've done so far. For anyone who came to this class for the first time, it's going to be hard for you to understand everything that we did because we've been working on this lesson now for a couple weeks. It's a very intricate, very difficult piece. So please, just if you don't know what we're talking about, it's okay. Go back and listen to the first classes. They're all on Tzion Breslov YouTube page. Okay. V'zeh she'amar Rabbi Bar Chana. And now we're going to go back to the story of Rabbi Bar Chana. Ledidi chazi li ahi akrukta. I saw once that there was a frog. What was this frog? Ferush Rashbam, he was the grandson of Rashi. Rashi, who was the greatest commentator of the Torah and of the Gemara, of the oral Torah. He passed away as he was rewriting his commentary to Bava Batra. And he passed away in the middle of his rewriting it, and his grandson, the Rashbam, who was a very close student, and obviously just close in general, was his grandson, he decided to take it upon himself to finish the revision. His name is the Rashbam. Rabbi Nachman uses his commentary often when he explains a Gemara. So what does the Rashbam say that this frog was? He says, or this akrukta, he says Fardeya. He was Sephardi. Fardeya. He was a frog. Hayenu meaning tzipor deya. Listen to what Rabbi Nachman explains. Fardeya is a conjunction of two words. Tzipor deya. What is this frog in the beginning of the story? Fardeya is tzipor deya. What do we explain is where the Meshiach, or where the part of you which wants to build its emunah, gets its emunah from? Birds. Not this bird. He still doesn't get it. Netzach and hod, according to Kabbalah, are called birds of Kedusha. Okay? Where is David? Where is Mashiach? Where is the part of you which has emunah getting its emunah from? It's getting it from these birds. Okay? These birds are singing a song. That song is what's building your emunah. What exactly are they giving over to you, to your emunah, or what exactly are the birds giving over to Mashiach? Da'at, consciousness. So what is the Fardeya, this frog in the beginning of the story, of this mysterious story in the Gemara that nobody understands? It's that the Fardeya is really Tzipor Deya. It is the birds that give da'at, that give consciousness to the Mashiach, that give consciousness to a Jew's malchut, to a Jew's influence, to a Jew's emunah. Everybody understand that part? Ki Akra de Hagronia. It was as big as the city of Hagronia. Milashon kara begaron. It said in the Gemara that this frog was as big as the city of Hagronia. So now Rabbi Nachman is explaining that the frog is really the consciousness that comes from these birds, the consciousness of a nevuah that gives you emunah. And it's as big as the city of Hagronia, meaning kara vegaron, to cry out from the throat. Kara, to cry out, vigaron, with the throat. What did we explain happens when a person listens to music from people who are holy, from people who are connected to the inner reality of things? It doesn't just mean they're Jewish. It doesn't just mean that they have a hat or they have a beard. It means that they're actually connected to the inner reality of spirituality. When that person sings songs and you listen to him sing, then you are actually nourishing from the birds of Kedusha. You are receiving a shtickle nevuah from them. And that is building your emunah. Or if you're listening to people who are not connected to that inner reality, whether they are Jewish or not Jewish, whether they are religious or not religious, then actually they're giving you influence from the birds of the Sitra Akra. And they're filling within you a nevuah, a prophecy, a prophetic experience, not of godliness, but of things which actually draw you away from emunah, which draw you away from feeling and experiencing Hashem in your life. Meaning this is, the song is drawn from the throat. Hashem instructed Yeshaya, who is the prophet, the voice, the source of Malchut, right? To cry out in a loud voice, which means that one must contract his vocal cords. Okay? So we're saying like this, the key to emunah is the voice. That's how we started this Torah. The key to emunah is the voice. Where is the voice coming from? The birds. This is the Fardeya. It was as big as the city of Hagronia. Why? Because he's saying that how does the Fardeya affect you? How does the birds or the music that you listen to affect you? It changes your voice. It either gives you a voice which is answered by Hashem and by those around you, or it gives you a voice which is rejected by Hashem and rejected by those around you.
I just had a big hiddush, right before you guys came, or right before you came, I put on the song, and with that song, you told me a lot, like every other day. So that's like what you're saying now.
The Akra de Agronia Kamaha Veshitin Bate. How big was that city? 60 houses. Let's say my voice is blemished. Why? Because I've been listening to trap music and rap music and crap music and whatever for all these years. And now Rabbi Nachman's teaching us, by the way, music is not just a innocent thing that just like gets you juiced up for the gym or hang out with your boys. It's actually deeply affecting your emunah, whether for the good or the opposite. Now that it's already been affected, what can I do now to rectify my voice, which is the key to my emunah? You need to do something which is as big as 60 houses. What is that? Ayadei shitin b'mesechtot. How many mesechets of the Gemara are there? 60. Why was the city 60 homes? Because that's the tikkun. The tikkun for the blemished voice that comes from the birds of the other side, that comes from music, from people who are not connected to the inner reality of life, or who are playing music for the sake of honor, fame, women, drugs, you name it, anything that is not in order to be the most positive influence on others, which obviously how many of those are there, I don't know. So we're probably all listening to a lot of people who fall into this category, and we're wondering to ourselves, why don't I feel emunah? The answer, Rabbi Nachman says, is because you're listening to that music or you have listened to that music. Wow. So now what do? That's like very scary, because that's what I listened to my whole entire life, and I'm still listening to it, or I'm not, whatever it is, but I've been listening to it. So now what do you need to do? You need to learn the 60 tractates of Gemara. Ayadei shitim b'mesechtot. Ferush Rashbam. That's why the Rashbam says about the city of Argronia that it's 60 houses. Talmudat Kamarla. Where did he learn this from? So the Rashbam says, the Gemara says this. The Talmud says that the city of Argronia is the size of 60 homes. But listen to what Rabbi Nachman does. He's saying that the Rashbam is hinting to a secret. He's not just saying the Gemara is explaining how big that city is. He's saying that the Gemara is the Tikkun itself. The Gemara says this. By the way, this is one of the most insane pieces of Torah. This entire explanation of this Gemara, I know it's probably not so sweet for the people who came for the first time because your head is probably swimming, but this is like a not normal, tremendously elevated revelation of something which is very mysterious on the face of it. Okay?
So learning Gemara fixes the damage.
At night. By learning the Gemara at night, at nighttime, which we're going to have to learn what that means, this actually fixes the damage to the extent that Rabbi Nachman says that if you then happen to listen to it, it won't affect you. Not only does it rectify your voice from whatever you already heard, but it actually protects you from hearing it if you happen to after that. Does that mean that I now can learn Gemara at night and then just blast Drake in my car the next day? So the answer is no. It means that if you happen to listen to it, let's say you're at a restaurant or whatever, and that's the music that they're listening to, and now you're worried, well, should I go here? What about here? There's music playing everywhere, so what, should I stay in my home? No, you don't have to do any of that. You can be completely normal, part of civilization, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, but you need to learn oral Torah at night. If you learn oral Torah at night, Rabbi Nachman says you are protected from whatever you hear. And by the way, the music he's speaking about is not just song, the Torah itself is a song. Sometimes you're listening to rabbis, sometimes you're listening to leaders of Jewish people, and you don't realize they're also getting their prophecy, their information from the birds of the Sitra Akra. How do you know who's telling you the truth and who's not? Who's guiding you towards good and who's not? Who's bringing you closer to and who's not? You don't. The birds of the Sitra Akra are the source of revelation. Birds are the source of revelation. Okay? Every single person has revelation in his life. When does that revelation take on monumental proportions? When you are a singer or a leader of a community.
So if like a bird that says chirping, thinking about something that's nothing, you got what I'm saying?
It's correlated, but it's not what we're saying here.
So it does
It
correlate.
does correlate. Everything correlates. Okay? But, for instance, what happens when you hear somebody speak? Again, I'm giving you this example. You're hearing me speak right now. I'm talking to you. So I'm an influence in your life for this hour. Now, what if, let's say, I wasn't really teaching because I care about the truth. I wasn't really teaching because I want world peace. I wasn't really teaching because I want that every single one of you should achieve your highest self. I wasn't really teaching. I actually like when people respect me. Or I'm actually teaching because I'm hoping to eventually make a lot of money someday from this. So what happens is, that subtle thing, now everything that I learn in the Torah becomes skewed and altered by my desires. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Still singing.
So everyone's singing. Everybody's singing. Everyone is singing to you all day and night. So what Rabbi Nachman is saying is applying all day and night. Yeah.
So what about like if you're just, it's only like leaders of community?
No, it's everyone is singing to you.
So how can you like,
But the issue is, to what extent does a person have influence? Who has the greatest influence? Rabbi Nachman is teaching it's singers. So now, because it's singers, that Hashem gave them more influence, and obviously we're seeing in our generation that's more than ever, that people who literally, for no other reason besides the fact that they are successful singers, we listen to everything that they think about politics, we listen to everything that they think about life, we buy their clothing, we literally take on their consciousness. Why? Because their vocal cords can do something. Does that make any sense? That's insane. It sounds crazy. However, it's not. Why? Because singing is the deepest, most spiritual experience. Singing is very deep. It talks to the soul in the highest level. It talks to the soul at the highest level, and that's why our generation craves music in a way that's never been, because we're craving the greatest revelation. The issue is that because we have this deep craving and we're not getting it from Kedusha, we have to fill it with something. So we're filling it with the opposite. What's the result of that? No emunah at all. Complete despair, sadness, anxiety, fears, trauma, paranoia, X, Y, and Z, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Why? Because I don't actually believe that Hashem is taking care of me, that He loves me, that He believes in me. Why don't I feel that? I'm reading about it all the time, but I don't feel that because of the music. So how do you protect yourself? By learning oral Torah at night. Okay. Atatanina bala. All of a sudden, a serpent, a nachash, comes and swallows that frog. Snake. Comes and swallows the frog. Ferush Rashbam. What does the Rashbam say this means? Rabbi Kamala, that Rabbi says this. He says, how do we know what Ata Tanina Bala means? That the snake comes and swallows it. He says, the Rabbi says this. Rabbi says this. Rabbi Kamala. Hayenu meaning, al yedei shilmad shelo lishma yivlaota nachash. Meaning that this person who's learning oral Torah, or Torah at all, he's not learning it for its own sake. He's learning it for intellectual stimulation. He's learning it in order that he should be able to show people that he knows what he's talking about. He's learning it for himself. So what happens when a person learns Torah, which is the purest thing in the world, but he learns it for himself? Then yivlata nachash, the nachash swallows it. Because the nachash is the ego. So that means that even when a Jew who's learning the holiest thing in the world, he's learning the most godly thing in the world, the most divine, transcendent thing in the world, but he's doing it from a place of ego, then the ego within him actually swallows the Torah that he learns. And then he teaches it to others. Drum beats louder.
Is he getting the light from a different sort? The light, the knowledge, comes from a person that's singing the right songs. He enters a certain light, certain wisdom comes down.
So, first he gets it from either Kedusha or the Sitra Akra. But then even if he gets it from Kedusha, whatever he is, then darkens or lightens what he got.
So the knowledge is the same.
Yeah.
It's just the way he explains it.
It's the way that he's experiencing the knowledge of the Torah. It says in the Gemara, it says in Masechet Yoma, that the Torah can either be a spice of life or a spice of death. How can the Torah ever be a spice of death? How can the Torah ever be a spice of death? So explain there, when it's not learned lishma. I'm not learning the Torah in order to connect to Hashem more, in order to bring peace to my home, in order to help my brothers. I'm learning it for myself. So when a person learns for himself, what he does is he takes the light and he makes it very dark. The issue is that light is explosive. It can be explosive in a way that it transforms your life for the good, or it can be explosive in a way that it transforms your life and those around you to its complete darkness. The issue is you don't know what a person's intentions are. You can't know. You could be listening to a rabbi. He knows everything. The source, this, that. He learns Yom V'Layla. And you don't realize that there's a shtickle part of him that likes that people listen to him. And that little tiny thing could distort every single thing that he is trying to give over to you. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to listen to music. I'm not going to learn from rabbis. I'm not going to, what am I doing? The answer is, you have to learn oral Torah at night. It protects your voice. And you have to learn it for the right reasons.
Do you have to have a kavanah that I'm learning this to block all this voice?
You don't have to have that kavanah. It does it automatically. But in your hibodedut, you should definitely say to Hashem, Hashem, please help me to learn oral Torah at night so that I am protected from a voice which is going to hamper or distort my emunah, and to protect me from the song of people who, even if they mean well and even if they believe what they're saying, are actually drawing me further away from Hashem and not closer. It's a great prayer. What you should be doing with everything that you learn from Rabbi Nachman is turn it into a tefillah. Turn it into a prayer. This is the key to everything. Turn Torah into tefillah. Good. This is Parish Rashbam, and this is what the Rashbam says. He says, Rabbi says this. Why does Rabbi say this? Meaning, meaning, why does Rabbi say this? Meaning, he learned it in order to be called Rabbi, in order to be called a rabbi. Yeah? That's what it means Rabbi said this. Meaning, literally, it means Rabbi said this, but he's explaining the sod. The secret is, he learned it. Why did he originally learn it?
For him to be called Rabbi.
So that you call him rabbi.
So
His ego is distorting the Torah that he learns, and you are listening to that Torah, and it is bringing you further away from Hashem and not closer to Hashem. It's bringing you further away from the Jewish people, not closer to the Jewish people. It's bringing you further away from your true self, not closer to your true self. Why? All because he's learning for the sake of being called rabbi. It doesn't even mean he's a bad guy. He could be a great guy. It doesn't even mean that he has bad intentions. He could have good intentions. He simply likes to be called rabbi. It's a geschmack thing when you have a room of people who are all listening to you and you're influencing them. It's a crazy phenomenon. It's a crazy phenomenon. And therefore, Rabbi Nachman, you should know, he was not scared of anything. Rabbi Nachman wasn't scared of anything. He's like Yosef with Esau. Remember, he just stands in front. He's not. There was one thing that he was constantly concerned with, and that was false leaders. He said that false leaders do more damage than the Satan.
We have that today too.
What do you mean? We have that today too.
We have a lot of.
It's almost all we have.
Okay, yeah, I'm saying.
No, I'm agreeing with you. That's almost all we have. He says that at least Satan, Hashem is the one who's controlling him, right? But people have free will.
How can they, I don't understand, how can they enter this, get this light, get this knowledge, get this wisdom, and they could verbatim talk to you like this, and use it, how are they going into this wisdom? How are they getting this light from? I don't understand. If they're using this light for the wrong reason, why are they still getting connected to it?
We need free will. If everybody knew who the tzaddik was, then you wouldn't have nobody, everyone would just know and we'd go learn from him.
So that's part of free will as well?
Part of free will as well. That you have real leaders and you have false leaders. That's one aspect. Second aspect is, before a person is born into this world, Hashem creates within his soul a certain level of malchut, a certain level and sphere of influence. Some, Hashem creates, Rabbi Nachman explains this later on Likutei Moharan, that their malchut extends to themselves. That they come to this world in order to influence themselves to change. That's the extent of their influence, and that's their tikkun. Some people come to this world to have a sphere of influence on a wife. That him and his wife are able to work together in order to achieve harmony. So that's the realm of his sphere of influence. Some people have been given a sphere of influence on a family. That one day you're going to have a wife and kids, and your sphere of influence exists within your family and extends further now to your family, to more people. And you're here in order to use that sphere of influence properly. Some people have been given a soul which is capable and designated to have an influence on a community. Some people on a society, some people on the world. One person on the world.
Is it the Gog and Magog and differentiation between who is the right leader and who is not? This
Is definitely a big part of it.
Okay.
It's definitely a big part of it. Because Rabbi Nachman says that the key to Emunah is that you're learning from someone who's drawing from the 7 shepherds. What does that mean? There's someone named Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, David. These 7 shepherds are not just people who existed, they are realities that are constantly pouring in Emunah into the world. All Emunah comes from those 7 realities. Where and who is getting the Emunah that comes from those? Only real tzaddikim. Only true tzaddikim. Only true shepherds of faith. That they are learning and teaching for the right reasons. And that's not a lot of people. Okay? So now, with that being said, Rabbi Nachman says, what's the key to you getting Emunah and the Jewish people getting Emunah is to the degree that you're attached to those people. But it's very hard. Why? Because there's a lot that's not like that. That's a whole lesson in and of itself. It's a very complex lesson. It's a very long lesson. It's kaf bet. Bezrat Hashem. Whatever, we'll get there. We can't go too much into it. But the basic point is like this. Rabbi Nachman says very clearly that Gog and Magog is not a physical war. It's a war of kafira versus Emunah. It's a war of Emunah versus atheism. And Rabbi Nachman said to his students, kafira is about to explode in the world. That the belief that God doesn't exist, or the belief that people do have in God that's not real, is going to permeate all of reality. This is the Gog and Magog.
So that's why technology is advancing more than ever, trying to not have nature anymore involved, but we can do it ourselves.
Technology can be either messianic or the opposite. We can use it for either.
It's in every generation like this.
Yes, but because of the advancements of technology which Hashem placed, which were actually talked about in the Zohar 2,000 years ago, when they would start, and they literally started on the year that the Zohar said, 1840 years before it happened, one of the reasons for that technological evolution was to make more rapid the coming of the Mashiach through the permeating of Da'at, God consciousness, true God consciousness. Because what could happen? We could use YouTube, we could use Instagram, we could use all these things literally to spread the teachings of Amunah. And that can bring Mashiach to the whole world. That was something we couldn't do before. You had a little shtetl and you had 50 people in a community, right? You could say something, a guy can literally do a backflip off his chair, and 5 billion people see this for some reason. Why does Hashem make it like that? Nothing just happens. So the answer is because technology can and will be a very big part in the coming of the Mashiach.
Rabbi, for David HaMelech, he wanted to be part of the forefathers. So, does that make him just for the fame to be called a rabbi?
So he didn't want to be part of the forefathers so that people can call him rabbi. The Meshiach yearns to be the Meshiach.
Is he going to be the forefather, Abraham, Isaac, and Mashiach?
So in the end, there is 4 legs of the Merkava. There is a very deep Kabbalistic concept called the Merkava, which we're not going to get into. But on a very simple level, there's 4 legs to that Merkava. What is a Merkava? It's a vehicle for revelation of godliness. They call it a chariot. I don't know what a chariot is, okay? It's a vehicle which reveals godliness in the most intense way. Who are the 4 legs to that chariot? There was only 3. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And David begged Hashem to be the 4th. Why? Because as opposed to Moshe, who refused and didn't want to be the Mashiach, David desperately wants to be the Mashiach. Because it's built into him a deep yearning and desire to save the Jewish people. Okay? That's not because he wants to be called rabbi, it's because he wants to save the world.
But he could do that. He doesn't need to be called
It's not about being called. No, he does need to be recognized. If he's not recognized, then how is anyone going to listen to him?
So, Kalmus, to the degree a person goes through these trials and tribulations, whatever he experiences throughout life, to that degree he can theoretically sing and influence more people?
Why do you say that? No, I'm asking where's the question coming from? I need more information.
Because we said that devil was the sweet singer of
Right,
Israel,
right.
and he was in the darkest places.
That's true, it's connected. We're going to see at the end of the lesson that there's a big connection. But one of the main reasons he was the sweet singer is because he had mastered the aspect of netzach and hod. He mastered the aspect of holy chutzpah, of being bold for the truth, and at the same time, submission, gratitude, acceptance. Because he was able to harmonize those 2 things, which are prevalent in Tehillim throughout the entire thing, that he's going back and forth. Hashem, thank you so much. Everything is great. Everything's the best. You do everything. Hashem, where are you? What are you doing to me? You know, it's like that's literally how Tehillim reads. It's like every one of our inner lives. So, but we don't understand that whole thing is what allows him to be the Mashiach. That going back and forth between intense gratitude, like insane gratitude for the good and the bad, which is not normal, and at the same time fighting with Hashem to make a change for himself and for the world around him. It's those 2 things that gave birth to his kingship. So to the degree that a Jew is able to do this in his own life, specifically within his hibodedut, his personal prayer with Hashem, to that degree, he can bring his own redemption, his own kingship, his own positive influence to himself and those around him.
When a person is yelling out, does he have to first mention other people before he talks about himself? Meaning, help this person, this person, this person, and then direct it to himself?
You don't have to do anything.
Whatever you feel like.
Whatever you want to do.
That's a
Rabbi Nachman says, speak to Hashem like He's your best friend. What does it mean? How do you talk to your best friend? Do you say to your best friend, hey, by the way, I have this friend, he needs help. I have this friend, he needs help. I have this friend, he needs help. And also, you know what? I'm dying. Or do you go to your best friend and you tell him, I need you to give me $50 right now because I'm starving. How do you talk to your best friend? You have to figure that out. However you speak to your best friend.
Rabbi say, if you want to have the prayer to come up.
It doesn't have to be like this. Meaning, some people have attachment to a different figure. Like, I don't want to cut it, but for me, Hashem is like my dad. And people sometimes have connection that they want, or they feel, because their dad is so good, or that's the figure that they want to talk to their dad. David is called David because of uncle. Like Hashem was his uncle, he feels connection with his uncle. Of course, it's like a best friend. But about a person who grows up with that. Open with.
Again, listen, you have to understand that there's a reason. Rabbi Nachman does speak about the concept of a child who's begging his dad for a change. There's a reality to that. But what's the issue? Most of our generation didn't have such chashuv dads. Okay, 1 second. Wait. And therefore, how do we see Hashem? We usually see Hashem through the lens of our own father. What's the problem with that? Hashem is not like our parents. So why is Rabbi Nachman hammering home that you should speak to Hashem like you speak to your best friend? Because he wants you to break your false conceptions of God.
He also wants you to be as open as possible.
Yes, and that can only be done when you see Hashem correctly. You can't see Hashem correctly when you're calling Him Dad and you're thinking about Him like you're Dad. And this is the nature of a person. I don't talk back to my dad. I don't complain to my dad. I don't do this with my dad. My dad hits me with a belt when I say the wrong thing. No, so what I'm saying.
Community, dad is like an odd, it's like, there's no connection like that. I understand what you're saying.
You may be able to connect to Hashem in a healthy way like a dad. Most people are not. Okay? And Rabbi Nachman didn't say it one time, you should speak to Hashem like He's your best friend. He said it over and over and over and over again. There must be a reason why he said that. There's a very deep reason for why he said that. I think part of the reason is because for the redemption to take place, Hashem needs to become your best friend. Okay, listen to what I'm telling you. This is a very, very important thing. This is a very important thing. Moshe was the greatest teacher, right? And David was the greatest king. But it's said over by Shlomo Karlbach, but I've actually heard it in other places as well, hinted to not in the same exact way, that Meshiach will be not the best teacher, not the best king, but the best friend. He will be everybody's best friend. Now, that's amazing. That's very sweet. Why should Mashiach be like that? And how does that reflect on Hashem? Mashiach is the human revelation of God in the world. So if at the end Mashiach needs to be your best friend, that's how we need to connect to and relate to Mashiach. It must necessarily be we need to connect to Hashem in that way as well. Maybe thousands of years ago we could call Hashem King, Father. But Rabbi Nachman is speaking to the final generations. And he's telling us now is time that you relate to Hashem like your best friend. Because the Mashiach is going to be your best friend. And our generation needs that. It's not by any chance that every one of us feels lonely, that every one of us feels misunderstood, that every one of us feels disconnected, even within our own families, even amongst our friends, that nobody feels known, heard. So what does everybody need? A best friend. Also, the Hashem that we've known in the exile has been one of din, judgment, justice, strict, You do this, you get this, you get this, you get this. However, Hashem and Mashiach want to reveal a different type of Hashem, a higher revelation of Hashem, one that's not from the exile. And this is Torah Chesed, the Torah of love, Hashem of love, and best friend.
How do you refer to him? I say Abba. What do you say to him?
Good. Call him Abba. Call him whatever you want to call him.
But how do you refer to a friend? Yeah, a friend has a name. How do you call Hashem as a friend that's related, that you're talking to a friend?
Hi Hashem, how you doing today?
Hashem.
My day was difficult. I can't imagine what it's like for you watching all of us slumping around everywhere. And like you just see us stumbling and falling. We have no idea what we're doing. Can you imagine? Like I'm struggling like this. Imagine everybody's struggling like this. And you love us with an infinite love. How much you must be in pain. Yeah. Whatever. How would you speak to your friend? So simple. Oh, Abraham's got a raya.
Torah is one, the earth and the sky is one, Abraham is one, Bet HaMikdash is one, Eretz Yisrael is one. It says what? Acquisition? Acquire yourself a friend.
This is going to be at the end of this Torah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
It says you have to buy a friend.
We're going to speak about it.
Who's the king Amalek and he was the one who was the king Hashem. You have to acquire, the one who acquires everything makes you the best friend.
We're going to speak about it. We're going to speak about it. Yeah. Okay, let's finish this piece, and then Thursday night we're going to go with the Mishnah, get yourself a rabbi, acquire yourself a friend. It literally is the next part of the... You didn't know, but you did know. Okay, the serpent swallowed. What does it mean? Meaning the study of Torah at night is what protects you from the nachash. Meaning by studying Torah at night, you actually nullify your natural desire to want to learn Torah for the wrong reason. That by learning Torah at night, like we're doing right now, it actually gives you a deep sense of humility. There's many reasons for this. It's very deeply spiritual reasons. But by learning Torah at night, at a time when it doesn't make sense really to be learning. Why? During the day, okay, everybody's outside, we're doing things are going on. But at night, what do I want to be doing? I want to be eating, I want to be chilling, I want to be hanging out with my friends, I want to be going to the bar, I want to be going to the club. And I learn in that time anyway. That means it must be that learning is not for you. You must have a deep inner reason for wanting to learn at night when it's not convenient, when it doesn't make sense according to society. During the day, okay, I'm going to learn. But daytime is when I fit into society and I do what society says. Nighttime, I get to do what I want. Now I'm going to go learn Torah at night when it's a time when everybody does what they want. This is deeply humbling. Oral Torah. Why? Because oral Torah is even harder to do at night. Why? If I'm going to learn oral Torah, at least during the day when I have energy, I'm surrounded by my friends. Now I'm going to learn oral Torah at night. I don't even want to learn. I'm going to learn now anyway at night. And now I'm going to learn oral Torah, which is like breaking my brain. It must be the humblest form of learning. So he says Davka the Gemara. He specifically says the Gemara, okay? However, he starts by saying Torah Shebal Peh. So, therefore, what's like the lahatchila greatest revelation, or what's the greatest tikkun within the learning? It is the Gemara, the learning of the Gemara, because that's the humblest form of learning. Because nobody's learning the Gemara at night, and just because they.
How many minutes are we talking about? 15, 20 minutes?
It's not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. It's just the process of doing it. With everything that Rabbi Nachman says. His whole derech and everything was different. Even his derech in learning was different. He didn't say you have to learn daf yomi. He said learn whatever you can every day.
Was it considered bittul Torah if you learned something else other than Gemara?
No, chas v'shalom.
So I heard that if you have a chance to learn Gemara, but you learn like Kalmus, for example, that would be considered bittul Torah.
Yeah, and Rabbi Nachman would tell you to stop learning from those rabbis. No, I'm telling you, this is. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Could
haolam
be considered
she'kol
piece of Torah. If you had a chance to learn Gemara,
So you don't have to finish that
instead
for
you
me?
learn like Chumash or like or something else other than Gemara.
Okay. So Rabbi Nachman says the best thing every Jew can do is to learn a little bit of everything every day. If you have 2 hours to learn, don't spend 2 hours learning Gemara. Spend 15 minutes learning Gemara. Spend 15 minutes learning Chumash. Spend 15 minutes learning Halacha. Spend 15 minutes learning Mishnah. Spend 15 minutes learning Musar. Spend 15 minutes learning Kabbalah. Spend 15 minutes learning Chassidut. Spend 15 minutes saying Tehillim. Nobody in the Jewish world is going to be maskim to this. You can't tell this to anybody and they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I think the whole thing is just a waste of time, okay? Part of being close to Rabbeinu means understanding that his advice, his truth is very different than what a lot of other people came to the conclusion of, okay?
You don't have to finish it for me.
You know that everything Rabbeinu commanded, he didn't command much. He offered a lot, gave a lot of advice. He said, I didn't command much. Whatever I commanded is a fix for all your prior ruling. Everything from Adam Rishon before, in this life, when you're in the grave, when you're going to Mashiach comes,
I tell this to people. I tell this to people all the time. People don't understand how much that Rabbi Nachman knew. I mean, obviously, if anybody picks up Likutei Moharan and is able to look at it without like any type of preconceived notions, the first thing they're going to say is, how does he connect every part of every piece of the Torah always? He's sourcing from the Mishnah. He goes to the Yerushalmi of Gemara. He goes to the Eitz Chaim. He goes to Halacha. He goes to Reshit Chochma. He goes to, and he's doing it all within one Torah lesson to explain one very deep idea. So the first thing that anybody who's learned for their whole life says, wow, it's like incredible how everything is like on the tip of his fingers. Like he's just, yeah, okay? But it's so much deeper than that. When Rabbi Nachman gives an eitzah, a piece of advice, you should learn quick. You should cover ground. That's the most important thing, that you're learning a lot of everything. Doesn't mean that you're spending hours cramming away on a piece of Gemara. It means that you're covering Torah. It has a lot to do with what the Arizal said. I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to overwhelm us. But it's just simply whatever Rabbi Nachman says is informed by so much wisdom, so much mystical insight, so much Kabbalistic ramifications, so much practical ramifications, that when he gives a piece of simple advice like, you should speak to Hashem like he's your best friend for 60 minutes a day, and you think to yourself, oh, that could help me like psychologically, and that could give me like peace of mind, right? I have time away. That makes sense. That's good. You don't know how much is going into that piece of advice. When Rabbi Nachman says that you should stay as far away from secular wisdom as possible, you think, okay, yeah, because that makes it easy for you to hear what he's saying. Why? Because you're not listening to anything else. If you're not learning secular wisdom, then you can learn Torah, and you're just like, okay, so you want to, yeah. You don't know how deep every piece of eitzah that he gives is. To the extent that if you just follow his wisdom and his advice, practical advice, you will achieve personal and collective redemption. It's that simple. It's an unbelievable thing. And if it doesn't make sense to you, that's a good thing. If everything that Rabbi Nachman suggests to us made sense to you, then you would have figured it out on your own how to help yourself. Obviously, we haven't been able to do that thus far. So the person who needs to help us figure out how to help ourselves, he must know something different than we know. That makes sense, right? If a person says, it's not logical, it's not practical for me to take an hour at least out of my day when I have to work and I have a family and I'm trying to progress in my life and I have to eat lunch and breakfast and dinner. How am I in today's generation going to take an hour out of my day to go to a field, to a river, and to go talk out loud to Hashem? And the answer is, you don't know what he's telling you to do. You don't know what it means. You don't know the depth. You don't know the power. You don't know until you do it. And when you do it, you'll know. I tell people all the time, you don't have to believe me that Rabbi Nachman is this, Rabbi Nachman is that. Just go do what he says and see how you feel. It's very, very simple. Go talk to Hashem for an hour by a river in the forest. Just see how you feel.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it like connect to the Rabbi? Isn't the goal to connect to Hashem?
Yes. How do you connect to Hashem?
Yeah. But he's not alive, you know, like Rabbi Nachman, like you're saying through his teachings, you connect to Hashem. Okay. So now I feel like you say connect to the Rabbi, it's confusing and connect. It's like become like another religion, you know, like Christianity, say connect to him to go to Hashem.
Yes. So I want to tell you something. You ready? Okay. How did we leave Egypt? Outstretched arm. Why didn't Hashem just take us out himself? Why did he send Moshe? So I'm just asking you, so why doesn't, we're not another religion, right?
Theoretically, you're saying Hashem could have just done it himself. He didn't need Moshe to do it.
Moshe even said to Hashem, why don't you just do it yourself? Moshe said it himself. Why are you asking me to go do that? What? Why? So I'm asking. You asked me, why should I need to connect to a certain rabbi in order to experience Hashem? Why don't I just connect to Hashem? And I'm answering you the same thing that Hashem told Moshe. For whatever reason he told Moshe, no, this is better. I want you to go do it. I'll give you a simple reason that Rabbi Nachman says. You ready? It's impossible for a person to achieve true humility in his life except by attaching himself to someone who's greater than him. Why is that important? Why is that important? Because how can you connect to Hashem who's greater than you and be able to receive from him if you're not humble? So what is the mechanism which brings you to humility? By doing it with a tzaddik. So by doing it with a real tzaddik, now you become a vessel to experience the light of Hashem. And this is the reason for Moshe Rabbeinu. That everybody had to say, you know more than me. And that was very hard for everybody to do. And it's still hard for people to do. But once you do that, what happens? You're free. It's one thing. It's the craziest thing. And by the way, we say this in Az Yashir every single day. That we believed in Hashem and we believed in Moshe, his servant. Why do we need to say that? We know what Az Yashir is? Az Yashir is the song of redemption. We're supposed to be singing this song, feeling like we're being redeemed at that moment. And what did the rabbis bring down right before we say Az Yashir? These pasukim from the Torah. The last one is that we believed in Hashem and Moshe, his servant. Why just say Hashem? Because the only way we got to sing Az Yashir is when we believed in both. Okay? Understood? Okay. Okay. Let's just finish this part and then we'll end, okay? So you study the Torah at night, you protect yourself from the nachash. V'salik yati bilana. And then all of a sudden, that pushkansa, that raven, then goes and it perches itself on a tree. Perush Maharsha, the Maharsha says, Shehu Bechinat Avraham. This is the concept of Avraham. Shekatuv etzlo, v'yita eshem. Like the pasuk says, he planted a tree. Right? Avraham planted a tree. Shehu Bechinat Chesed. This is the concept of love. This is the concept of kindness. This is the concept of unconditional giving. What protects you from the nachash? What protects you from your own ego? What protects you from the ego of others? So that you are able to see the truth clearly? The Torah of Chesed. The Torah of Chesed. The Torah of Chesed. The Torah of Abraham.
Meaning Torah that comes from love as well?
Is there a connection between the separate and the tree and Adam and Eve as well?
Yes. By studying the oral Torah at night, what happens? The Gemara says you draw a chut shel chesed. You draw a thread of loving kindness during the day. What does that thread do for you exactly? Rabbi Nachman says it protects you from your own ego. Because your ego is the cause of all your suffering. Your ego is the cause of your inability to connect to a reality which is greater than you. So what do you need protection from? Magen Avraham. What is he protecting you from? He's protecting you actually from yourself. Because we ourselves are the cause of all our own issues. And it's not our true self, it's the part of us that we're holding on to which is holding us back from experiencing all the good. When you learn oral Torah at night, you protect yourself from the negativity at night, and you draw a chut shel chesed during the day. It means that even during the day when you come to learn and you come to pray, you go to work, you're also protected from your ego.
Is that how Hashem created the world? Because first created the darkness, right? And then the next thing that comes after darkness is day, light.
It's like your two peyot. One of them looks like tohu, and the other one looks like or. I'm serious too.
Hashem use the same mechanism as a chut shel chesed through creating the world?
Yeah, chut shel chesed is, yes.
Because the day one is chesed.
Yes. Yes. The light of Avraham shone in the beginning, but it won't shine again until Meshiach. The light of Abraham is the light of the Or Ganuz. It's the hidden light. The light of Abraham is the light of love. This love is too intense for a person to experience when he's invested in himself. But as soon as the Jewish people are open to experiencing something greater than themselves, then we can have the light of Abraham. We can have the light of love again, the Torah of love, the chut shel chesed. Tai chazi, come and see. Kama nafish chelei di'ilana. Come and see how strong that tree is. Ha'enu sherabba matmiha et atzmo. Rabbi expressed his amazement. Shekol kach gavar aleinu chasto. At Hashem's love for us. How powerful it is. Shafil al zeh yachol again. That He can protect us even from the voice that comes from the other side. That He can protect us even from our own egos and the egos of those around us. That by simply learning oral Torah at night, Hashem gave us the ability to protect ourselves from all negativity, which is blocking us from connecting to the Ein Sof, the endless one. Okay? Tomorrow, Thursday night, we're going to be discussing the Mishnah which Avraham was mechaven to, which is that you need to get yourself a rabbi, and you need to acquire yourself a friend, and you need to judge everyone favorably, and we're going to see how it's directly connected to everything we've learned so far. Any questions?
You said in the beginning something great is happening.
What?
In the beginning you said something great is happening, something great
Yes.
is coming.
Look around.
Oh, okay.
You didn't see the sushi earlier?
There is a change that's taking place. Okay? There is a deep change that's taking place, and we're all meriting to be a part of it. Your job is to allow yourself to experience what's happening. like it was with Esther, that Esther came to Mordechai, and Mordechai said, you need to tell the king that you're Jewish. And Esther said, no, I can't, he's going to kill me, X, Y, and Z, ba, 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 ba. And what did Mordechai tell Esther? Mordechai told Esther, if you don't do it, somebody else will. What type of motivation is that? Can you imagine? You have to do it. You're going to save the world. And guess what? If you don't, there's a guy at 7-Eleven, he can do it. And you're like, okay. So it was motivating for the first few seconds. I was really getting amped up to go save the world. But then you just told me anybody can do this. Mordechai is the tzaddik. Esther is Klal Yisrael. And Mordechai is telling Esther, you can be a part of the redemption. You can be the cause of the redemption. And if you don't, redemption has to come anyway. So you're going to choose. Are you going to be a part of it? Or are you going to be holding back the Meshiach from coming?
You said yesterday that David, that Mashiach draws from the tzaddik.
Yes.
David's Mashiach was Shmuel and Navi.
Right.
And he has no chayus, he has no life from himself. The only life from Hashem comes from when he's connected to the true tzaddik. Who is going to be Mashiach's tzaddik? Who is Mashiach's tzaddik?
Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi.
Who's Rabbi Nachman's tzaddik? Who's Rabbi Nachman's?
Okay, one second. It's taught in Chassidut and Kabbalah that David or Mashiach ben David, he is going to need Eliyahu Hanavi to give him a voice. That even though he has the power of speech, he's not going to be able to use it for good until he gets a voice from Eliyahu Hanavi. That Eliyahu is going to cause David to be able to speak. Why Eliyahu? Eliyahu is connected to Pinchas, who we just learned in last week's Parsha. Pinchas and Eliyahu are very connected to the Brit. They are masters of the Brit. And we're learning in this Torah that what gives a person a voice is the degree to which he's achieved purity in the area of sexuality. A voice that's heard by Hashem, by those around you, is the degree that he achieves sexual purity. So who is going to implant voice within every Jew? It has to be the master of the Brit. Who were these masters of the Brit? Eliyahu Hanavi, Pinchas, that they are obsessed with this concept of purity in the area of sexuality. Why? Connected to Yosef. It's all connected to Yosef. And it's for this reason that Mashiach is not going to be able to speak until he receives from Eliyahu. Why? Because even though Mashiach has the power to talk, he's charismatic, he's capable of speaking, but what is his voice? Because his voice is what's going to determine if his influence is positive or negative. For his influence to be positive, he needs to have the most beautiful voice. Where does he get it from? Eliyahu. Okay.
He also went up to Shema with his body, right?
Yes. Everybody have an amazing night. Does any?
Rabbi Nachman, who is the tzaddik? Baal Shem Tov?
Rabbi Nachman is a very interesting situation. And we'll talk more about it later. Everybody have a great night.
Rabbi.